In a quiet village surrounded by tall palm trees, red earth roots, and little streams that glittered under the sun, there lived a girl named Adana. From the day she was born, people said she was not an ordinary child. Her skin was smooth and bright, her eyes were soft and sharp at the same time, and as she grew, her beauty became the talk of the village. When she was still a little girl, old women would stop whatever they were doing just to look at her and smile. "Look at this child," they would say. "She is too fine." At first, her parents were grateful. Her mother Ngozi would carry her proudly on her back and laugh whenever people praised her daughter. Her father, Okeke, would smile quietly and thank God for giving them such a lovely child. But Adana was not known only for her beauty then. As a child, she was cheerful and playful. She ran barefoot with the other children, chased butterflies in the bush paths, fetched tiny calabashes of water for fun, and sat close to her mother whenever food was being prepared. Her mother would tell her, "My daughter, beauty is good, but character is better." Her father would add, "No matter how beautiful a person is, if their behavior is ugly, people will avoid them." Adana would nod, though she was too young to understand how serious those words were. As the years passed, Adana grew into a young woman, and her beauty became even more striking. Men who came from nearby villages would ask, "Who is that girl?" Women would turn to look when she passed. Even little children stared at her as though they had seen a spirit from the river. The village began to speak of her as though beauty alone was an achievement. "That girl will marry a rich man. She can never suffer. See how she walks. She looks like somebody born for enjoyment." At first, Adana only enjoyed the attention, but slowly, without noticing, the praise began to enter her head and change her. She started to believe she was above others. She no longer sat on the floor with the village girls to peel cassava or sort vegetables. She no longer laughed freely with those she had once played with. She began to move differently, to talk differently, to look at people as though she was doing them a favor just by standing near them. If another girl tried to speak with confidence, Adana would look her up and down and smirk. If an older woman corrected her, she would roll her eyes. If her mother called her to help with the cooking, she would pretend not to hear. At first, her parents thought it was just youthful stubbornness. They assumed she would outgrow it. They did not know that something dangerous had already started growing inside her. As Adana entered womanhood, the change in her became impossible to ignore. She woke up late. She refused to sweep. She avoided going to the stream. She hated pounding yam, cleaning the compound, washing plates, or doing anything that made her sweat. If her mother said, "Adana, come and help me with the firewood," she would answer, "Why should I be carrying firewood on my head under this sun? Am I the only girl in this village?" If her father said, "Greet the elders properly when they speak to you," she would hiss and walk away. Her mother tried everything. She pleaded, she advised, she warned, sometimes she even cried. "My daughter," Ngozi said one evening while slicing okra outside the kitchen, "a woman is not known by her face alone. One day you will enter another person's home. What will you do there if you do not know how to care for a household?" Adana, who was sitting under the shade, rubbing oil on her skin and admiring her reflection in a little mirror, laughed carelessly. "I am not like every other girl," she said. "The kind of man that will marry me will not need me to stress myself. He will have servants. He will give me comfort. I was not born to suffer." Her mother looked at her for a long time and said quietly, "Comfort does not keep a home. Character does." But Adana never listened. She kept going that way. One afternoon, after hearing that Adana had insulted an elderly woman in the market, he called her into the house. "Did you speak rudely to Mama Ezenwa?" Adana shrugged. "She should mind the way she talks to me. She is old enough to be your grandmother. That is her business." Okeke stared at his daughter, shocked by the coldness in her voice. "Adana," he said, "you are becoming something else. This is not how we raised you." She folded her arms. Maybe I have grown. Maybe I now know better. And who are you? She lifted her chin. I am not like these village girls that will bend their backs from morning till night. I am meant for better things. That day, her father's face fell. He said nothing else. But from that moment, he knew that the compliments people had been pouring into their daughter had slowly poisoned her mind. Soon, Adana became known not just for beauty, but for bad behavior. Children feared greeting her. Women shook their heads when she passed. Young men still admired her face, but many began to whisper, "She is too proud." Some said, "Beauty without respect is trouble." Some said, "Let us see what will happen when she enters marriage." But Adana did not care. As long as people looked at her, as long as people talked about her, as long as men desired her, she felt powerful. She mistook attention for value. She mistook admiration for wisdom. She mistook beauty for permanent victory. One of the people who tried hardest to correct Adana was her childhood friend, Amaka. Amaka was not as beautiful as Adana, but she was gentle, hardworking, and well brought up. She woke up early, helped her mother sell vegetables, respected elders, and carried herself with quiet dignity. The two girls had once been very close, but as Adana changed, the friendship began to die. Still, Amaka did not give up on her. One morning, the two of them met on the path leading to the stream. Amaka had a bucket on her head, while Adana was walking empty-handed, dressed neatly, with a proud look on her face. "Adana," Amaka said warmly, "you have not come to the stream in a long time." Adana smiled faintly. "That is because I do not enjoy suffering." Amaka forced a laugh. "Fetching water is not suffering. It is part of life." "For you maybe," Adana replied. "Not for me." Amaka hesitated, then lowered her voice. "My friend, do not be angry, but people are talking. Let them talk. They say you no longer respect anybody. They say you are too proud. Even your mother is worried." Adana said, "So now you have joined them." "I am not against you," Amaka said softly. "I am trying to help you." Adana's eyes hardened. "Help yourself first. I know why all of you are bothered. It is because I have what you do not have." Amaka blinked. "What do you mean?" "My beauty," Adana said plainly. "It is choking all of you." Amaka stood silent for a moment, oath written all over her face. Then she said, "Beauty can open a door, but it cannot keep it open if your behavior is bad." Adana laughed in disbelief. "Listen to yourself. You sound like my mother. I sound like someone who cares. I do not need your advice." And with that, Adana walked away. Amaka watched her go and shook her head sadly. That evening she told her mother, "I do not recognize Adana anymore." Her mother replied, "Pride has covered her eyes. Sometimes people do not understand life until life begins to teach them itself, 'cause they said experience is the best teacher." In the same village lived a wealthy man named Obiora. Obiora was not old, but he was older than Adana by several years. He was successful, respected, and well established. He owned large farmlands, had many bags of yam in storage, traded in palm oil, and had workers under him. His compound was one of the finest and biggest in the village. Women spoke of him with admiration. Men respected him. Mothers prayed for a son-in-law like him. For a long time, Obiora had said he would not marry in a hurry. He wanted a wife who would bring peace into his home. But when he saw Adana one afternoon during a village gathering, he was stunned by her appearance. She stood among other young women, but she seemed to draw all the light to herself. He asked, "Who is that girl?" Someone answered, "That is Adana, daughter of Okeke." He asked around about her. Some praised her beauty, some kept quiet. A few warned him gently. "She is very proud. She does not work. She is not respectful." But Obiora dismissed those things. People often do that when beauty blinds them. He told himself, once she enters my house, she will settle down. He told himself, maybe people are just jealous. He told himself, a beautiful wife is a blessing. Not long after, he sent elders to Adana's family. When Adana heard that one of the wealthiest men in the village wanted to marry her, she was not surprised. In fact, she felt it was exactly what she deserved. She smiled and said to herself, did I not say it? I was made for a very soft life. Her mother was not at peace, but she could not stop what was happening. Her father was worried, but he hoped marriage would mature his daughter. During the traditional rites, people came in large numbers. There was food, music, dancing, and celebration. Adana wore beautiful wrappers and beads. People could not stop looking at her. She carried herself like a queen. Some women whispered, she is lucky. Others whispered, luck is one thing, keeping a marriage is another. But on that day, nobody wanted to speak of trouble. It was a day of joy. Obiora was proud to have such a beautiful wife. Adana was proud to have married such a wealthy man. Both of them entered the marriage with excitement, but both of them were about to learn that marriage is not sustained by excitement. Adana's new home was everything she imagined. The compound was large, the rooms were spacious, there were workers around, there was food in abundance, fine wrappers, jewelries, and sandals filled her space. At first, she was happy. She woke up late, strolled around the compound, ate well, and enjoyed being called the wife of a wealthy man. Whenever she visited her parents, she returned with pride shining all over her face. She would say things like, I told you my life would be different. Her mother only smiled weakly and asked, hope you are learning your responsibilities. Adana always answered, there is nothing to learn, everything is under control. But things were not under control. In the first few weeks, Obiora overlooked many things. If food delayed, he ignored it. If Adana did not know where items were kept, he was patient. If she spoke carelessly to workers, he corrected her gently. But slowly, he began to notice that his wife did not truly know how to run a home. She could not cook proper meals. She could not manage provisions. She did not know how to organize the household. She did not know how to welcome visitors with warmth. She looked down on those helping in the house and spoke to them as though they were beneath her. She expected everyone to serve her, yet she contributed almost nothing. One afternoon, Obiora returned from the farm with two respected elders from a neighboring village. They had business to discuss and had stopped by the house. In many homes, such a visit would be simple. Water would be brought, food or kola nuts would be presented, the guests would be received warmly. But Adana was inside resting. When a maid came to inform her that her husband had visitors, she frowned. So, they are waiting in the sitting area. Then give them water. There is no prepared refreshment in the house, Ma, Adana answered angrily. What do you mean there is none? What do I keep you guys here for? The maid lowered her head. Madam, the kitchen items are finished. Ogaden said last week we should make a list. But what? You said it could wait, Adana hissed. Leave me. Outside, the elders sat awkwardly, while Obiora tried to cover the embarrassment with conversation. Eventually, plain water was brought and nothing else. After they left, Obiora called Adana. Why were my guests not properly received? She answered casually. I was resting. You were resting? Yes. You could not stand up for a few minutes to welcome people. We have workers for that. Obiora looked at her closely. This is not about workers. This is your home. You are the woman of this house. Adana tossed her head. And I am not a servant. The words hit him badly. He had never asked her to be a servant. He had asked her to be a wife. That evening, a crack opened in their marriage. It was small at first, but it did not stay small. As months passed, the problems in the marriage became more serious. Adana liked the title of wife, but not the duty of it. She liked the comfort of wealth, but not the discipline needed to preserve peace. She liked being admired, but not being corrected. Whenever Obiora advised her, she took it as an insult. Whenever he asked for help in any area of the home, she became defensive. Whenever older women in the family tried to guide her, she felt attacked. One day, Obiora's aunt came to visit. She was a wise woman who had raised children and managed a large household in her time. She watched quietly for 2 days and noticed the disorder in the home. Meals were irregular. The workers were unhappy. Adana was impatient and lazy. Nothing in the house had the warmth of a woman's touch. The aunt called Adana aside. "My daughter," she began gently, "do not be offended. I only want to help you. A home needs attention. Your husband is a good man. Do not let carelessness ruin your marriage." Adana's face changed immediately. "Carelessness?" "Yes," the woman said calmly. "You must rise early sometimes, supervise things, learn the household properly, speak kindly, and show respect. These things matter." Adana folded her arms. "With due respect, times have changed. I did not come here to be suffering from morning till night." The woman sighed. "Responsibility is not suffering. To you maybe." "My daughter," Adana cut her off. "Please, I do not need lectures." The aunt looked at her for a long moment and then said, "Pride is a dangerous companion for a married woman." But Adana wasn't ready to listen to anyone. Later, when Obiora heard how she had spoken to his aunt, he was furious. "You disrespected my aunt. She should stop trying to control me. She was advising you. Nobody tells me how to live my own life." Obiora stared at his wife as though seeing her clearly for the first time. "You speak to everyone as though you are above them." "Maybe I am." That was the wrong thing to say. For the first time in the marriage, Obiora lost his temper. Above who? Above your husband? Above elders? Above common sense? Is it your beauty that will cook? Is it your beauty that will keep things in order? Is it your beauty that will build a home? Adana was shocked. Nobody had spoken to her that way in a long time. She burst into tears, but not because she felt sorry. She cried because her pride was wounded. From that day, the house became tense. They argued often. Workers started leaving. Visitors reduced. The joy that filled the home at the beginning began to disappear. There are lessons life teaches in a way no human advice can. One rainy season, Obiora fell seriously ill. He became weak for days and could not go to the farm or attend to his business properly. In that period, the home needed steady care more than ever. Meals had to be prepared on time. Instructions had to be passed to workers. Visitors and relatives had to be attended to. The farm laborers needed guidance. Everything required order. But Adana was overwhelmed. She did not know what to do. She had never trained herself in care, patience, or responsibility. She had spent too many years avoiding work, insulting correction, and depending on the strength of others. Now the weakness of her own hands was exposed. She forgot important things. She delayed meals. She spoke harshly to people who came to help. She grew irritated easily. At some point, it was Obiora's younger sister, Kioma, who quietly stepped in and began putting things together. Kioma cooked. Kioma attended to visitors. Kioma supervised the workers. Kioma even comforted Adana when she was confused. People began to notice, and in their noticing, Adana began to feel shame for the first time. She overheard two women outside one afternoon. One said, "Imagine, such a fine woman, yet she cannot handle a home." The other replied, "Her beauty fed her pride, but it did not teach her anything." Those words stabbed deeply. For the first time, Adana had no sharp response inside her. She simply sat still. That night, as she looked at her husband sleeping weakly on the mat and heard movement in the kitchen where Kioma was still working, something broke inside her. She thought of her mother calling her to cook. She thought of her father telling her to greet elders properly. She thought of Amaka warning her on the path to the stream. She thought of all the times she had laughed at correction. Tears filled her eyes. These were tears of recognition. She was beginning to see herself truthfully, and what she saw pained her. The next morning, before dawn, Adana woke up earlier than usual. The compound was still quiet. Even the birds had not fully begun to sing. She stepped into the kitchen. Kioma, who had also risen early, was surprised to see her. "You're awake?" Adana nodded. "Yes." "What are you doing here?" Adana's voice was low. "I want to help." Kioma looked at her, unsure whether to believe her, but she said nothing and handed her some things to sort. At first, Adana was clumsy. She made mistakes. She moved too slowly. Later that day, she tried to serve her husband herself. Obiora looked at her with tired eyes, surprised by the change, but he said nothing. The following day, she swept part of the compound. Then one evening, after Obiora's health had improved a little, Adana knelt before him. Obiora was startled. She had never knelt to speak to him before. Tears were rolling down her face. "I have done wrong," she said. He said nothing. She continued. "I have been proud. I have been lazy. I have been disrespectful. I thought beauty was enough. I thought comfort was all that mattered. I did not listen to anybody. I embarrassed you. I am sorry." Obiora watched her quietly. It was not easy for him to forget all the pain at once. He had endured much frustration because of her behavior, but what he saw in front of him did not look like the same arrogant woman who had once said she was above everyone. He saw humility, or at least the beginning of it. He said slowly, "Words are good, but change is better." Adana nodded quickly. "I know." And for once, she truly meant it. A few days later, she went to her parents' home. When her mother saw her, she smiled and reached out to welcome her, but Adana fell to her knees. "Nay, forgive me." Ngozi froze. "For what?" "For everything. For how I spoke to you. For how I ignored you. For the way I refused to learn. For the shame I brought." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Okeke came out and stood at the doorway as Adana turned to him too. "Papa, forgive me." He did not answer immediately. Then he stepped forward and lifted her gently. A child who realizes a wrong path and returns is better than one who keeps going until destruction. They held one another, and Adana cried like a little girl, not because life had beaten her completely, but because truth had finally entered where pride once sat. Change did not happen in one day. Adana did not suddenly become perfect. That is not how real life works. Some mornings, she still wanted to sleep longer. Some tasks still felt difficult. Sometimes her old pride would try to rise when she was corrected. But now, she fought it. She began learning the things she once mocked. She learned how to plan meals properly. She learned how to greet visitors with warmth. She learned how to speak to workers without insult. She learned how to manage the household little by little. She visited her mother often and helped with some errands. At first, Ngozi watched her quietly, not wanting to scare away the new humility that had come. But when she saw Adana's seriousness, she began teaching her everything patiently. How to cook, how to manage food in the house so it does not finish unexpectedly. How do I talk to people without sounding harsh? Even Amaka noticed the change one market day. She was arranging tomatoes when Adana approached her. For a moment, Amaka was tense, expecting pride. Instead, Adana said, "Amaka." "Yes?" "My friend, I'm really sorry." Amaka looked at her carefully. "I insulted you when you were only trying to help me. I spoke as though I was better than you. I was foolish. Please forgive me." Amaka's eyes softened. "I forgave you a long time ago." Adana gave a small, sad smile. "You were right." Amaka laughed gently. "Life has now explained it better than I did." Both women smiled. With time, the peace in Adana's marriage began to return. She had started doing the inner work she had neglected for years. The home felt like home again. Visitors were received properly. Workers stopped leaving. Obiora, though still cautious at first, began to trust her efforts. One evening, he sat outside with her after dinner and said, "You have changed." Adana looked down. "I am trying," he nodded. "Keep trying." That simple statement meant a lot to her, because now she understood something she never knew before. Marriage is not a stage where a woman comes to be admired. It is a place where character is tested every day. As time passed, Adana's story spread through the village, but not in the way it once had. Before, people spoke only of her beauty. Later, they spoke of her pride. Now, they spoke of the lesson her life had become. Mothers used her story to train their daughters. Elders referred to it when advising young people. Even men discussed it when talking about marriage. They would say, "Beauty is good, but it must work with humility." They would say, "A proud person may shine outside, but inside their life will lack peace." They would say, "Train your children well before applause from the world spoils them." Adana herself never forgot the road she had walked. Whenever she saw younger girls boasting too much about their looks, she would call them gently and speak from experience. "Do not make the mistake I made. Beauty draws eyes, yes, but it cannot wash plates. It cannot speak respectfully for you. It cannot carry responsibility. It cannot heal a broken home. If you are beautiful outside, also build something beautiful inside." Sometimes, after saying such things, she would remember the old version of herself and shake her head in quiet regret. But regret no longer ruled her life. Wisdom did, and one of the clearest signs that she had truly changed was this: she no longer wanted to be praised for her face. She wanted to be known for her sense, for her peace, for her work, for her humility. Years later, when people spoke of Adana, they still mentioned her beauty, but many added something else. They said she was once carried away by her beauty, but life corrected her. And that became more powerful than all the compliments she had once chased. Because in the end, what saved Adana's home was not the face that made people stare. It was the humility that made her finally bend. Final moral beauty is not bad. Wealth is not bad. Admiration is not bad. But when beauty gives birth to pride, when comfort produces laziness, and when praise makes a person disrespectful, trouble is not far away. A good face can attract people, but only good character can keep love, peace, and honor alive. No matter how gifted a person is, life has a way of exposing what pride tries to hide. And when that day comes, only humility can rebuild what arrogance nearly destroyed.